Yo, what's good, bro? So, I'd say that being fat has probably been one of my biggest insecurities for pretty much my entire childhood. And I remember there would literally be points in my life where I'd be putting myself in the front of a mirror and punching myself in the stomach because of how much I hated being fat shamed. I hated the way I looked. And the thing is, in the past few years, I've lost over 15 pounds and it has changed my life forever, bro. And I make this video almost sort of give my younger self advice and value so that he can achieve what I did in less time. So in that case, it's you. And what I'm going to show you here is the three biggest reasons for why you're fat because you didn't get here by accident. There are very many reasons for why you're here. And today I'm going to show you the three biggest ones and how I overcame each one so you can do the same thing as me in half the time. And the last one is the most important, so stay and watch until the end, bro. I promise it'll be worth it. All right. So I have three reasons noted here for why you're struggling with being fat and how to overcome them. And the first one, and this is the one that I haven't seen anybody talk about this, which is having shit mental health. And let me explain to you what this means. So, if you're currently fat and you don't like the way you look, it is basically just because you did a certain behavior, a certain action that over time led to you being fat. So you didn't exactly choose to be fat. You didn't choose to eat the junk food and tell yourself, "Oh yeah, I want to be fat." But over time, because of these actions that repeated themselves, it caused you to get here where you're dissatisfied with how you look now. So the biggest influence on your behavior and the biggest reason that why you're probably struggling is that you have horrible mental health. And the reason for that is your mental health is one of the biggest influences on your behavior. And what I found was that when I had shit mental health, every single time I try and put some effort into losing fat, it was almost like there was this rope that was tied around me and pulling me back and just trapping me in the same situation over and over again. And what I found is that when you have shit mental health, it makes it so much harder to lose fat and you're so much painful. Like it's so just difficult to even think about doing any of the good habits because here's the thing. Your mental health is basically just your certain baseline for how much enjoyment you feel in life. So let's say you were just sitting in your room. Your mental health is just how you feel in that moment. And when you have shit mental health and you feel like semi-depressed and you don't really have any motivation, you're gonna go to things like video games, junk food. This is my experiences, right? I would go to things like video games, junk food, the hub, just endless scrolling, all to just numb myself because I just didn't have good mental health. So I use these things to hide that. And what I found is that when I improved my mental health, it became 10 times easier to lose the fat. I'm not even joking because here's the thing, if you're anything like me, you're probably struggling with things like these addictions to video games, junk food. You have this lack of motivation and you don't even have this enjoyment in life anymore. And if you're struggling with these things, what you have to realize is that all of these different problems you're having are just a symptom of poor mental health. And when you improve your mental health, you get rid of these things and it becomes literally 10 times easier to lose the fat. So, I have some notes written down here on how exactly you can improve your mental health so that you can escape this problem that you've been having. And what I'd say is that the biggest piece of advice that I'd give to you if you want to improve your mental health is just to look at, okay, why the hell do you have bad mental health? And what I found was that there are many things that are probably going into this, but the biggest reason that you're probably struggling with mental health is because you've been constantly feeding your brain with cheap instant pleasure. And let me explain to you what this really means. So, when you are just sitting there in a room, just alone, you have this baseline motivation, you have this baseline benchmark for pleasure, right? But whenever you do something that's highly stimulating, like eating junk food, playing video games, that baseline spikes up really quickly, right? But when you stop playing the video games and when the junk food's over, that spike has to go down, but it doesn't just go back down to where it was. It goes lower than where you started. And so if you can imagine this, every single time you ate that junk food, or play the video games, over time, your baseline slowly erodes down lower and lower, causing you to feel worse as the days go by, even though you're supposedly having fun every single day eating junk food, playing video games, right? But what I found is actually that the opposite is also true. So whenever you're doing things like that are really pleasurable, if you swap that and if you do something that's actually pretty difficult right now, so for example, you watch this video till the end, even though it feels kind of boring, there's no weird edits happening to stimulate you. If you watch this video and you absorb all the information I'm giving you and you take action on it, you're gonna have better mental health, because even though it was slightly hard right now, even though your baseline went down, it goes back up immediately after you've done the hard thing. Another example is studying or exercise. And what you need to do is, if you want to improve your mental health, what you really need to do is just slowly but surely just change your behavior so that you stop flooding your mind with this instant pleasure. Instead, choose to put your time into things that give you delayed pleasure. And that sounds really easier said than done, but bear with me, because I've structured the rest of this guide to basically also improve your mental health along with it. And I'll show you these other tactics I use to stay consistent and to gain new senses of motivation and consistency so that you also improve your mental health at the same time. And so, yeah, that's the biggest one, honestly, mental health. But there's the second reason that is also one of the most important things that I struggled with for the longest time. And this second thing I'm about to talk about literally kept me trapped for years, I would say. It took me so much pain, so much just horrible motivation issue, just so much BS that I had to go through until I finally understood the second reason, which made it 10 times easier to lose the fat. And this second reason is that you're struggling with being fat because you have no system for achieving your goal. So let me just tell you a story just to illustrate what this actually means. So this happened at like the middle of 2022. It's like right in the middle of lockdown. I'm sat there on my gaming chair. I'm playing video games. I'm playing Minecraft. And all of a sudden, I have this snap of motivation, and I'm suddenly just like, dude, this is bullshit. I need to get fit. I want to look better than this. I want to stop being fat shamed. And I hype myself up, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start doing these good habits. And I had this newfound energy within me to go and lose the fat, right? But here's the thing. A few days go by and I'm stuck again in the same cycle. I tell myself at the start of the day, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go exercise today. And then it would be like 10 a.m. and I'd think to myself, okay, I'm feeling kind of tired. I'm going to go work out in the afternoon. And so I just play some video games and I'd go on YouTube and do some other stuff. Then it's 2 p.m. It's the afternoon. And I'm like, oh man, I just ate lunch. So how about this? I'll do it later in the afternoon. Then it's like 4 p.m. and I see this one friend on Discord hasn't logged on in a long time. So I'm like, okay, let me just go play with them. I'll work out in the evening. And I would never actually do the thing. Even though I wanted to do it, even though I knew it was important, I would never get on to working out. I would just keep on pushing it off. And I would just make zero progress towards the goal. And the reason for that is because I had no system for achieving this goal. And here's the thing, right? It's really good that you're setting this goal for losing fat. And I would like to pat your back for watching this video until here. But what you need to understand is that you're not special for setting this goal, bro. And I'm not saying this to insult you, but just think about it, right? There are drug dealers on the street right now that have goals in the back of their mind. They also want to get jacked. They also want to get pussy. They also want to get status, right? Same with abusive alcoholic fat fathers, right? They're 40-year-old alcoholics who also have goals. And so what you need to understand is that everybody has goals, but there's one thing that separates the people who never make progress and people like me who've achieved this goal. I don't mean to brag. It's just that I want to give you value, right? And what I found is that the thing that actually got me to start being consistent in achieving this goal was that I created a plan for the actions that I needed to take to achieve the goal, also just called a system. Because here's the thing. Let's go back to that version of me, that story where I told you where I'm pushing off the exercising constantly. And let's say that instead of me just telling myself I want to work out, imagine if I just told myself, okay, at 10:30, I'm going to go to my room and work out for half an hour in which I'm going to do squats, sit-ups, and push-ups on my knees. And not only that, but I wrote down when I'm going to do the thing. I would be like 10 times more likely to achieve this goal just because I set a plan. I put a system in place that would allow me to achieve this goal. And what I found is that the reason that most people aren't consistent isn't because they don't have motivation. It's just that, and I'll use myself as an example, the reason I was never doing the things I needed to was because I didn't give myself clarity on the specific things that go into achieving the goal. Basically, what that means is that when you set this bitch goal of, oh, I'm going to work out today, it doesn't actually help because you're giving yourself the opportunity to push it off. But when you set that specific system for achieving the goal, you're so much more likely to do it. So let me just pull up my notes here. It's kind of, there's actually some depth in like achieving systems and creating systems for your goals. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a video on the bottom of the description, which basically just walks you through how to create your own system, almost like you're setting a quest for yourself in a video game that would allow you to be consistent. And so my action step is just, for this part, is just after this video, go down and watch that one as well. So I've covered the biggest thing, which is mental health, and I've also covered the system you need to achieve the goal. But there's one more thing, and this is honestly the biggest one that you're probably struggling with, which, if you understand and if you just give me a few more minutes, will genuinely just make it so much more effortless to achieve losing fat. And that is, you have the wrong mindset when going into this. And the reason I'm saying this is because you probably tried to lose fat before this, right? This isn't your first time you saw somebody talking about how to lose fat, right? But what you need to understand is that the workouts and the diet and all that other stuff, right? That only accounts for like 25% of the goal. 75% of the results you want, dead ass, just come with having the right mindset going in so that you're more likely to stay consistent. Because what I've learned is that the biggest thing that people struggle with isn't a lack of information, right? Most people usually have gigabytes. They have hours of information online on it losing fat, right? But there's a reason for why only a few people achieve this goal, and one of them is, having the right system, but the other thing is having the right mindset that gets you into the race on your feet running, instead of you simply sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to work out more. When you have the right mindset and when you've purposefully set these conditions in your head, and okay, I'm sort of yapping right now, but basically mindset is really important. Okay, so I could probably make a whole video just talking about mindset because there's so much that goes into it. But the biggest one that I'm going to cover right now, but which is probably going to be the most useful for you, is this concept called the Valley of Despair. And let me just explain to you what this means. So I'll tell you a story, right? Whenever I was trying to achieve fat loss and whenever I was trying to improve my fitness, I wasn't like completely brain dead. I wouldn't just like give up immediately. But what I'd find is that every single time I tried to achieve this goal, I'd fall into this other cycle where I'd stay consistent for like a few weeks. Honestly, I was pretty good, right? I was working out for half an hour, maybe even an hour every single day. I was cutting out junk food. I was watching fitness content just like this. But after just a few weeks, I wouldn't see any progress. And that is so demotivating because if you really think about it, as humans, like let's say 1,000 years ago, we were used to seeing quick rewards, quick outputs for the actions that we do. So for example, if you were to shoot a freaking arrow into a bull, we would see the bull dead on the ground and think, yay, we have food. But what I found is that when you have these longer term goals like losing fat, it's really hard for your brain. Like your brain's kind of retarded because your brain just can't comprehend you working and not seeing results. And what's even worse is that when you're like if you're anything like me and you had things like video games in your life and you were constantly just seeing yourself leveling up in the game, it would get so demotivating to see yourself working out but not seeing the results, because you have this mindset going in thinking, okay, if I work out today, I better see results tomorrow, right? But the thing with fat loss, and this is from my personal experience, is that you're not going to see results for at least like 2 months. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat this shit. It's going to take you at the very least like 2 months for you to start seeing some improvement, right? And if you really think about it, when people set fucking New Year's resolutions and this other horseshit, right? They'll stay consistent for a bit, but because they don't see this, again, this clear output for their efforts, they'll go back to just being a loser and they'll stop caring about the goal because, oh, I guess I can't lose fat. However, what you need to understand, wait, let me just pull out my notes, bro. Yeah, this is the high production value you'll be getting from my channel, but, yeah. What you need to understand is that there is this concept that I like to call the trial by fire. And let me explain to you what this means, right? Losing fat is almost like walking into this big wall of just fire. And you can imagine, like, you're walking through and of course you're getting burnt to shit, right? It feels horrible. You feel this pain. And this symbolizes, like, you going through the workouts. And what you need to understand is that as you're walking through this wall of fire, you need to get to the end of the fire to actually see results. And what people mostly do is that they'll take a few steps into that fire and they'll never see results because you're only like a few weeks in, bro. But then they'll see all the pain they're going through and they'll see this lack of results. And so they're like, oh, Shay, okay, this is just bullshit. I'm not gonna keep trying. This is too hard. But a really cool, but let me just demonstrate why this is such a horrible mindset, which is losing fat is like, it's not just a linear process. It's not like you work out today and you see results tomorrow, right? Instead of it just being like a straight line of progress, it's like you won't see results for a little bit. And this is the area where most people quit because they don't see results and so they get demotivated. But then, as they slowly climb up, they see a little bit of progress, a little bit, and then boom, it shoots up and you see massive progress. And so the reason this is so important to understand is that this first period is the period where you're going to see the least amount of motivation. It's almost like the universe is testing you to see whether or not you're worthy of losing the fat. And to be honest, most people fail that test, including me for the longest time. But what you really need to understand is that this pain that you're going through right now of not seeing results, of feeling a little bit almost disappointed, is the price you need to pay for achieving this goal. It's like, imagine you're in an in-game shop, right? And there's the merchant in front of you, and you need to give him gold. You need to give him a currency to get these weapons, to get these, like, trade for something, right? You can imagine fat loss like you're in an in-game store. Let me just see if I have... Okay, I have storage. Okay, good. My bad. What was I saying? Shit. Yeah, in-game store. So you can imagine fat loss almost like you're in an in-game store and you're trading a currency to get fat loss. You're to lose fat, right? That currency, instead of it being gold, is pain. And every single time you feel pain, you can almost imagine it being like a trade with the universe to get this little bit of fat loss. And over time, over the course of months, you're going to see massive fucking progress because after you escape this valley of despair, you shoot up into heaven. You shoot up into fat loss territory and you feel so good. And so if you understand that, I hope that really helped you out because that is the biggest thing that I had to struggle with for so long. And that concludes this video and I hope you found value in this. And if you don't know who I am and if you just found my videos, I basically make videos to help younger me with achieving his goals in a much faster way. So if you want advice on things like fat loss, on quitting your addictions, on becoming a straight A student, on just becoming the enlightened teen and surpassing all of these other losers around you, then go down and subscribe so that you get more videos just like this posted to your feed. If you like what I did, again, go down and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And go watch that video in the description. As always, my name's Atharv. See you soon, bro.